And welcome to Off the Tee. My name is Chris Exusion. You can find me at Chris Ebom on Twitter and at OTT Matchups on the Heat Ratio Network. And it's a big week. It's major season, and this is the big one. This is the tough course pretty much all year. This is going to be testing everybody's limits, and for good reason. This is going to be a very difficult course. You're not going to see that minus 24 at the Byron Nelson. This is going to be polar opposites right here. And I had to finally pull out the big gun, my buddy Jonathan Coachman. You can find him at The Coach Rules. You can find him on CBS Early Edge, not just for golf, but every other sport as well. And you can also find him at the First Cut Podcast. Absolutely love him on there. Tuesday nights is a must-watch, betting and good banter, of course. And one of my favorite shows, PGA Tour Live. He does commentary for them as well. And, Coach, great to have you on.
Man, Chris, I tell you what, we kind of became what do we call Twitter friends, and I love your stuff. And it's so funny because people feel like when people do kind of the same things that they have to be competitors. And in this space, that doesn't make any sense to me. And so it's great to be on your show. It's great to talk golf. This is going to be a big-time week. It's a big boy golf course, and I've got some inside information I'm going to reveal here on the show with you here in a little bit that people want to know before they place our bets tomorrow morning.
Absolutely. That's one of the big reasons I want to have you on here. You always have your ear against the wall when it comes to sports, and especially for golf as well. And I appreciate you saying those kind words. It really means a lot to me. It's been really good for you reaching out to me. It's meant a lot to me. And yeah, I agree with you. I've talked to a bunch of other people, and I emphasize that, hey, you should start your own podcast and talk about it and everything, because I do respect the work that everybody puts into it. So I don't really think of it as much of competition as well. But let's just get into it for the most part. The course is Kiawah Island. It's a big course, 7,800 yards, most yardage that we've had so far at a tournament, and especially at a major. On top of that, Pete Dye design. It's a long course, but do you think really driving distance is the be-all, end-all here, Coach?
Well, from the guys that I've talked to, and of course CBS is going to be airing it, ESPN Thursday and Friday, CBS, and that's where the majority of my work is done. So I've been talking to a lot of the guys that I work with that are on site and on the ground. And from everything I've been told, the way, Chris, that the wind is going to be blowing in, normally on most golf courses, it's not a big deal. On this golf course, it's a really, really big deal. And it's going to be coming in from the east, which means for several of these holes, it's going to be left to right. So for faders of the golf ball, it's going to fade even more. So I don't know if driving distance is going to be so important as in controlling your golf ball so you can keep it in these very generous fairways. But then, unlike other courses, Chris, we're talking about over 7,900 yards at the Ocean course. You're going to have a lot of long irons into raised up greens. And so that's why I'm kind of going towards European players and guys that are really good and have high ball flights, because you're not running the ball up on these greens. You've got to fly it on the greens and get it to stop.
So you think actually the high-flying balls will be more beneficial here, even with all the wind?
It's tough. I'm saying guys that can control it, but also have a high ball flight, because you've got to. It's like a double-edged sword, right? That if you're a low ball flight, but if you hit into the side of the green, it won't roll up onto the green. So you've got to figure out piercing ball flight, almost like that low into the wind, and then get it to stop. So you've got to really be in control. And also, I'm playing guys this week that have great short games, like Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, because there's going to be a lot of missed greens. Back in 2012, I know you already know this, there was one guy in double figures. That's it. One guy. There was one guy over 500 back in 2012. This is going to be a grind. It's going to be unlike most PGA championships, because most PGA championships, you're talking 14 to 20 under par usually wins. Not this week. And Mark Immelman, who was amazing on the first cut yesterday, and he walked us through every single hole with Google Maps. It was amazing. He said he would take 471s this week, which is 1 under each day, 4 under for the tournament, and he said he would take that, sit for 4 days, and he said I would walk away with the trophy on Sunday if I had 471s. That shocked me.
That's absolutely crazy. I mean, you see these guys, they play so well on tour all year, and this is pretty much, you're gonna have to really like dig deep and figure out, like, oh boy, oh shit, like what's happening? Like, what do I need to do here? I think that's going to be the biggest concern. I personally feel like driving distance isn't going to really matter too much because of that wind, especially if it's blowing in. I think guys of like the Brysons of the world, I think might be held down a little bit. It's going to be a test against Mother Nature pretty much. And that's usually not a good battle.
And that's my first little nugget I want to let out on the show here. I'm glad you brought up Bryson because I've heard a lot of chatter on different shows and different people that I respect. And they believe that this could be the same type of scenario, Chris, that we had at the U.S. Open. I don't believe that to be true. So I called a couple of guys who've been out there for the practice rounds, and apparently he is spraying the ball everywhere but the fairway. And we saw last week he really struggled. I thought he struggled for him at the Byron Nelson. So I'm going to be fading Bryson all week long, and there are some matchups at the books that I use that have him head up against Rory. I'm taking that all day because I'll take my my inside sources on the ground.
Sure.
You don't flip that switch from Tuesday to Thursday. If you're not finding the fairway on Tuesday at a major championship, there's a pretty good chance, Chris, you're not doing it on Thursday either.
Yeah, that's some very valuable information. That's just like icing on the cake for me at this point that you said that they spraying it around. I was actually looking to actually jump into something real quick. I was looking at two missed cuts that I like. Bryson was one of them at plus 340 to miss the cut. I know it's kind of bullish, but I feel like this would be a good spot to get good value on a Bryson that might not be able to raise his level up because of the driver being kind of held down for the most part. So
I love the miscut play. I'm saying in general because it's usually a good way when a player is off, not in form, to really make some money on them. I don't know about Bryson though. He always figures out a way to either make the cut right on the line or he's going to be in the lead. He just has that knack. But at plus 340, it may be worth a little sprinkle because that's a pretty good number for him to miss the cut, I think.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's kind of like against the grain for the most part, but I feel like a small kind of bet, I think it would be a nice little play, just at least gain maybe one or two bets at that point. I'm actually looking at another guy. I saw his domestic cut line to be really low, and that was Sam Burns plus 180. Pretty much he's been unbelievable. He's been second, first, and fourth in his last three starts, and he hasn't missed a cut since the Valero Texas Open. The line's low for a reason. Burns' downfall is his strokes gained around the green game. That's his biggest downfall. And like you even said, that around the green game is going to be so important here for the guys like the Patrick Reeds of the world. Answer's pretty solid around the green. And you have players like Brian Harman and Patrick Cantlay who have not been amazing, and they have more of a chance of making the cut than Sam Burns based on what Vegas thinks. So I think that's a huge red flag.
And I don't get that. I really don't get that because to me, if I was fading any two players that I think would have pretty good numbers, and I haven't looked them up, it would be Patrick Cantlay for one because he's been horrible the last 4 to 6 weeks. Awful. And then Ricky Fowler. I actually found two plays of Billy Horschel over Ricky Fowler and Harris English at my book over Ricky Fowler. I jumped all over.
Wow.
I mean, I can't even believe. And the number for Billy Horschel, Chris, was minus 126 in a head-to-head tournament matchup. I'm like, what universe am I in that Ricky Fowler and Billy Horschel, who just won the match play in March, that he's only a minus 126 over Ricky Fowler? Fowler shouldn't even be able to be played against or for because his game isn't good enough right now. But yet Vegas and the books, they fall in love with Ricky. He got a special exemption, Chris, and he's in a featured group, but DJ is not. Explain that to me. It makes no sense.
It makes zero sense, honestly. DJ, he hasn't been the DJ that we all known, but that doesn't mean he's been playing bad. He's been real solid. And for the most part, Ricky made the tournament based off some sort of exemption. Is that right?
Yeah, he did. He got a special exemption based off of what the PGA of America said was what he's done for the game and his status on the money list. Those were the two reasons. Listen, I honestly don't care about the special exemption because to me, and I work at the PGA of America. I did an event for them today, but I'm also very honest with them, and I don't always like what they do. To me, it's so antiquated to have 20 spots in a major in 2021 that is given to the PGA professionals. Because with all due respect to those guys, none of them have a shot to win this golf tournament. So you're given 20 spots. I'm okay with 5, maybe even 10. But the fact that in 2021 you've got all these young cats that are good enough to win this golf tournament, and there's a lot of names that aren't in this golf tournament, but yet there's 20 PGA pros that are. And I know it's a special thing for them, but at some point we've got to really reevaluate and look at it and say, listen, I know it's your tournament, PGA of America, but you need to have the best players in the tournament, and right now they do not.
Yeah, I don't really understand that. We got like a Will Zalatoris who's pretty much fighting for his player's card at this point, and he's a guy that's been tearing up the entire tour.
Well, it's not that he's fighting for his player card, because he has temporary membership, and because of how he's playing, he's going to get his card at the end of the year. What is a hole that the PGA Tour needs to fill, Chris, is that right now, because he's not a member of the PGA Tour, he's not eligible for the FedEx Cup playoffs. And so right now he would be 12th or 13th on the FedEx Cup list if he was eligible to play. And again, that's crazy. But I was doing something with Nota Big A today, a business appearance that we did together. And I said, is this something that needs to be fixed? He said, yes. But you got to remember, it's very, very rare. And if you asked Will Zalatoris a year ago, would you trade all the money that you've won, a second-place finish at the Masters, which guarantees him a spot in next year's Masters, would you trade any of this to be in the FedEx Cup playoffs? And he would say no. He would take what he's doing and say, I'll skip 1 year, get my PGA Tour card, and then I'll be off and running next year. So don't feel sorry for Will Zalatoris. He just made $1 million at the Masters for second place, so he's fine.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good golfer. He's one of the best ball strikers on tour. He's obviously going to get his tour card. I just felt that to be kind of weird with the rules for the most part. I want to go to the audience here, and they have a question over here. My man Mitchell has a question. Is this Siwoo Kim's week? What are your thoughts about that?
I tell you what, I've never been. Siwoo Kim is one of those guys when you bet on him. When I bet on him, he plays like crap. Then when I don't bet on him or bet against him, then he goes out and wins in the desert. He's got a really good game. What has happened to him, though, is he changed teams, he changed coaches, and I think his game is tightened up, meaning he's not going to shoot those 80s anymore like he used to. Remember he won the Players' Championship?
Yeah, way back.
And then all of a sudden you're looking and he's shooting like 81, 82, and you're like, what is this guy? He has tightened that up now. So is this his week? I don't think anytime you go to a Bomber's Paradise that is a recipe for success for Siwoo Kim. So no, I don't think this is his week.
Yeah, he's a little too volatile for me. I don't think he's a consistent enough good player. He will have spurts of being good here and there. I believe his around the green game is pretty decent, but he's just a guy that I can't really ride with for the most part. Maybe I could do a top 30, top 40 with him, maybe feel a little safer with that. Might be able to get 2-1 with him. But another question the people have as well is, do you think a player like Cameron Smith or Scottie Scheffler can top 5?
Cameron Smith, I actually have in one of my matchups that I gave out on the first cut. I love Cameron Smith. He has the swag, the confidence, and I think the game to be successful this week. I don't think Scottie Scheffler does. I think Scottie Scheffler is way too erratic off the tee. He's been playing better this spring. He's had 5 finishes, but he's been very, very at the bottom. He's just kind of ho-hum. I think he was 8 or 9 under and like T40, whatever it was. But you notice with his footwork, he's kind of all over the place the way he swings, and so that leads for a lot of variance in his golf swing, and it causes the ball to go a lot of places and over-exaggerates. At this golf course, you can't allow that to happen, because if that over-exaggerates, it's going to be wet. And so I would say yes to Cameron Smith. I would say no to Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Cameron Smith, he's definitely on my betting card for the most part. He's a guy that's always been contending in these majors, a really strong putter. I don't always rely on the good putters, but he's been consistently one of those good guys. And he's been somebody that's just been a big gamer in these events. And this is going to be a tough event. There's just grinders in the PGA Tour. And he's one of the young grinders, actually, which is really rare to find, because a lot of these young guys, when shit hits the fan, they just simply can't put it all together. And I think he's one of those guys that isn't afraid of the spotlight here, and that's where I'm standing with that. Got another question. We love your thoughts on the win splits on Thursday and Friday. Do you have a little more detail about this?
Well, the last time we talked about it, which was about 4 hours ago, both Thursday and Friday is scheduled to be the same, which is coming from the East, which is a left to right win for right-handed players. That is a recipe for disaster. So I'd be very careful. And I know a lot of amateur fans at home that don't watch as much as you and I do or study it or do it for a living may not know which player fades the ball or draws the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But you want to be very careful if you're playing a guy who fades the ball, because if the wind blowing off his left and he's trying to fade it, that's what's going to happen, Chris. It's going to go even farther to the right. So be very careful. You really want to play this week. I think a really good ball striker. And like I said, lean towards the European player who grew up playing on courses like this and playing in wind and conditions like this.
No, absolutely. There's definitely a couple guys from the European side that I am looking at, but I want to get into one of my favorite bets right now. Leader after first round. It's pretty much the lottery ticket of golf betting, the biggest sweat in all of sports betting. I think there's no better bet than leader after first round. And I'm looking at four guys over here.
Okay, give it to me.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
I said, give him to me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like Matt Jones, 120-1. He's been in the positive in all strokes gained categories in his last 24 rounds. Strokes gained around the green game's been a very strong suit of his, like you said before, which is going to be very important. 12 of his last 14 first rounds have been in the positives and strokes gained totals. So he has been a guy that's been able to play well in first rounds. That's something I'm eyeing up. And he's ranked fourth in the entire field in strokes gained around the green as well. So he's one of the guys I'm looking at. Cameron Smith, 55-1. He's a guy that is also, big game. We talked about him around the green game. At the WGC Workday, the Players and the Genesis, he had very good first round scores, which I think is very important to note. Some guys just play better in first rounds than others. And it doesn't really hurt to have a really solid putter, because you're going to have to make those putts. You're going to get hopefully like a -2, -3. If you get that for the first day, you're pretty much probably going to lead. And
I think it's a guarantee. I think it's a guarantee. Sure.
Yeah, and two more guys I'm also liking. Sergio Garcia. I had him last week. He was right at the cusp of getting first-round leader. He's 70-1. He's one of those European players. He plays really well in the first round. He's actually ranked second in the field in strokes gained total at Pete Dye courses since 2019 with 7 first rounds. He's been in excellent form with his approach game in his last 16 rounds. The only downfall has been his putter, but we all know that can turn around. These guys are professionals. And finally, at 100-1, Christian Bezuidenhout. He ranks 7th in the field in strokes gained total at Pete Dye courses in the first round. And he's also had 5 first rounds. So there is a good data with that. It's not just 1 or 2 first rounds. And in those first rounds, he ranks 4th in strokes gained around the green at that field. So at 100-1, a guy that can lead after first round, I absolutely love it.
I don't mind any of those 4. Quick little funny story about Christian Bezuidenhout. When I was hosting the PGA Tour selection show for the match play a couple of months ago, his name came up. And sometimes when you're doing something and your mind's going so fast, I'll shorten names up so I don't screw them up live on the air. I was like, Chris B. Some guy on Twitter was like, isn't it your job to be able to pronounce these names? And I said, isn't it your job to shut it and let me do the job? And when the PGA Tour calls you to host anything for them, then I'll listen to you. I didn't hear from that guy again.
Oh, exactly. I know you got the keyboard warriors over there doing their best. But actually, I like one of your calls on the PGA Tour Live. When Billy Horschel plays, you always call him Billy Ho, and I like that. So keep up the good work with that.
I'm all about nicknames, and to me, that's how you brand guys. It's how you brand. Everybody on my Early Edge show has a nickname, and that's how the public remembers, because nobody remembers Jonathan, nobody remembers Larry, nobody remembers Mike, but they remember nicknames, and that's what we try to do. I call it the brand within the brand. So that's what we try to do.
Go on.
Going back to your first round plays here, if you like all 4 of these, I would sprinkle a little bit on all 4, because the numbers that you're giving out, if you hit one of them, then you're going to have a huge profit. No matter, I wouldn't just play one. I would, it's a major. Up your units, up your game a little bit, and I would sprinkle a little bit on all 4, because I think all 4 have had a history of busting out of the gate quickly and then regressing a little bit. But they're really good on Thursdays.
Yeah. And we got Billy Ho, FTW this week. So
Billy Ho.
Billy Ho. We'll see what happens. He's a loose cannon. Maybe he won't be in the water for once.
Did you see him? He looks like Matthew Wolf's big brother now. He grew a full beard, and he literally looks like Matthew Wolf's older brother. Exactly.
Well, at least he doesn't withdraw every tournament, so that's nice.
Don't get me started on DJ. Don't get me started on DJ, because we'll be here all night. Don't get me started.
Yeah, but like Wolf literally played like one round. I forget which tournament it was. He was like plus 1,000, and he's just like, I'm done.
I've never. I almost understand when you shoot an 85 on Thursday, not coming back on Friday. But the pros, they come back and they use the 18 holes to figure it out. They don't just go home and say, my game sucks. Because right now his game stinks. Mm-hmm. He doesn't know. When he played at the Zurich with Colin Morikawa, it was almost like a sympathy play for Morikawa. It's like, they expect us to play together, so we're going to come out and play together. Colin didn't look like he wanted to be there because Matthew Wolf was hitting it all over the yard. I don't know what's happened to him, but he's turned into somebody that if he doesn't watch it, he's going to be out of golf very soon because he's borderline has the shanks. Borderline.
Yeah, it's crazy because he was talking about, I think we were talking about a while back on Twitter, I might have actually been on TV. I wasn't sure, but as far as he was saying the grind of the PGA Tour, like I guess during the pandemic, he was having some, he just couldn't, it was too much of a workload for him, even though it wasn't really that much. He's only 22. It just didn't make much sense. It's just something mentally is not there with him.
I don't want to hear anybody say the grind of the PGA Tour. When you work hard enough, Chris, and you get to the PGA Tour, and you're playing for an $8 million purse or $6 million purse every single week, and you're paying for $1 million first prize, I don't want to hear about the grind, and I'm too tired, and that's what you dream about. Every kid who picks up a golf club says, maybe someday I can be one of the 200 best in the world and make it to the PGA Tour. I don't want to hear a player complain or go do something else. And guess what? There's 150 players on the Korn Ferry Tour that are licking their chops to get to the PGA Tour. I don't want to hear you complain. Go out, fix your game, and get back.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more. I've pretty much lost it with him for the most part. I don't know if he's ever going to get it back with me for the most part. But are there any guys that you feel like they have a shot at first round that you've eyed up?
You know who always plays well in the first round is Harold Varner III. We have like a running joke that if it was only 18 holes, Harold Varner III would have like 12 wins already on the PGA Tour.
Right.
For some reason, he loves to come out of the gate fast. But Rory is also a guy that if he comes out fast, he can shoot a 65 or a 64. Spieth is the same way. You saw him shoot a 63 in the first round last week at the Byron Nelson. So there's some big dogs that if they get that mojo going early, that they can go very, very low. I think this week is going to be all about the big game hunters. I think all the big names, that it's going to be a leaderboard that looks very similar, Chris, to what the Masters looks like, with all big names and everybody fighting it out on Sunday. And I think if you wanted to play Rory, Spieth, but the numbers may not be at a point that you could play them for a first-round lead. I don't know what the numbers are, but to me, that's like trying to predict the winner. It's like a needle in a haystack. So you don't want to put too much. You don't want to bet on too many guys. And if the number's not low enough, it's not worth the play.
Yeah, I mean, Rory is probably a really low number. He is a favorite at 22-1 to lead after the first round, so that's considered chalk for first round. But hey, if you really feel that great about him, 22-1 is still an amazing payout, especially for a guy that's been playing at the top of his game. I know he's won recently at the Wells Fargo and everything, and his odds just changed completely. But I don't know. I just can't really get on with him because of the odds for the most part, just in general, just to win.
Well, that's the problem. And the key to really being profitable in golf betting, Chris, is getting ahead of the curve, getting on somebody before the market catches up with them. Right now, Sam Burns, I believe, is plus 5,000 or plus 6,000. The market hasn't caught up with how good he's playing. So that would be a value play. But when you get below 2,000, like where Jordan Spieth is at plus 1,600, it's hard to pull the trigger on that because the odds of winning it are very, very low. And then if you do win, the payout isn't that much. So I normally like to play winners in the plus 3,000 to 5,000 range because then if I hit it, that makes a difference and I can see that win and I can see that money. But plus 1,100, you're dumb if you do that. You really, really are, because rarely does it come in. And if it does, where are you at? you're only 11-1. It doesn't make any sense.
I think there was only one time I took a guy really low odds, and it was when Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship over at Bethpage. He was like 9 or 10-1, but nobody was playing better than him at that point. He was just completely locked in. So I feel like that was kind of like almost like a Tiger Woods kind of play at that point. But some other plays I want to get into as well. I want to get into some top 30s over here. So for top 30s, I have 2 plays. One I love, and another play I also like as well. My favorite out of the 2 is Charlie Hoffman. I was able to get him a plus 360. He's been in the top 20 in his last 4 events, and in the 5th one, he finished 34th. So he's obviously been in great form. He's also been in all positives and strokes gain categories, with his approach shot being his best stat. And that's going to be, I think, approach shots can be big because you're going to be behind the ball with the driver regardless. So I think those approach shots are going to be big. And he drives the ball 305 yards, which is a really good distance average. And his scrambling is at 67%. So with that kind of combination, that good form going, I like him plus 360. And for even money, I like Abraham Answer. He's ranked first in the entire field in scrambling in his last 24 rounds played. He's 4th in the field in strokes gained off the tee because of his accuracy, not because of his distance. And he's 5th in strokes gained total in his last 24 rounds. He's finished inside the top 30 in his last 6 events. And to be able to get even money with this play, I'm all for that, Coach.
Well, I like the first play. I don't like the second. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Who's the first play again?
Charlie Hoffman.
Yeah, sorry. He's great in the wind. He's absolutely great in the wind. And he's also one of the 40-somethings I loop with Charles Schwartzel, Ryan Palmer, Matt Kuchar, that have really had to look themselves in the mirror and say, do I still want to be a PGA Tour pro? Because all those young dudes I talk about from the Korn Ferry, they're ready to take those PGA Tour cards. So Charlie Hoffman, he has raised the level of his game. And I love him this week. I think for a top 30, I would love that too. Nobody talks about him, but he has been an absolute cashing ticket machine, whether it's a head-to-head matchup or a top 20 or top 30. I like him. The reason I don't like Abraham Answer is I don't think he's quite long enough. And if you're going to be, and this is what Mark Immelman told me on the first cut. He said there's going to be a lot of guys who are approaching instead of with 9 irons or pitching wedges, which is normal on the PGA Tour. Right. It's going to be 6 irons, 5 irons, 4 irons. If that's the case, and a guy like Abraham Answer would be in that category, I don't like his chances to be able to score on this course because he doesn't have, in my opinion, the length to really play this course well.
Yeah, that's interesting that you brought that up because it is typical. With those approach shots, usually a 9-iron pitching wedge, but since the distance is not going to be there, he's going to have to hit with his long irons. And how good is Answer with his long irons? They're okay. They're not great, but I think I was just more factoring that if he does get off to the course for the most part, he can get himself back onto the green and possibly get a good putter going as well. But I like where you stand there as well. Is there any top 30 guys that you're eyeing?
I'm not. I'll be honest with you. The way that I bet is I don't like top 30s. I don't like top 20s. I don't play them because it's just too hard to make money. And I'm a grinder. And everybody, I all I do is give you my advice, and then I say, but it's your money. You can go do whatever you want. To me, if you consistently play top 20s and top 30s, you will go broke. You absolutely will. Because if you're in a head-to-head and you shoot a 72, you still got a shot to win. If you have a top 20, you shoot a 74, you got no shot. See, the variance, and that's why the odds also are accordingly. So I rarely look at guys. If I'm going to have a top 10 guy, I'll usually play him at a top 20. But again, the guys that I feel confident in, because I don't like betting on bad players. I don't like betting on players that I go, well, maybe this is the week. I've learned my lesson. It's just like betting on bad football teams or bad basketball teams, right? You're like, why did I bet on the Tigers? Why did I play the Orioles tonight? Well, that's your own fault because you're betting on bad teams. You got to be disciplined. And to me, I like betting on good players. I might not always win, but at least I know what I can expect. And the other guy has to have a good day to beat my guy. And sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
sometimes that happens. But so I'm not a big fan of prop bets in golf.
No, I totally understand. I think that's a really good insight with that. I know you're big into the matchups. I'm also big into matchups. Personally, for me, I like putting out the live second, third, fourth round matchups.
Me too.
They've been my bread and butter where I've made most of my money because you get to see the strokes gain data and see how guys are really, truly playing.
I tell people all the time, don't play round one matchups. You
No,
have
no,
no
definitely not.
idea. You have no idea how a player is going to play. You have no idea how a player is going to play.
Mhm.
I usually will give out a bunch of tournament matchups, and then I'll play like you the round 2, 3, and 4 after I see how a player plays the first round.
So might as well just get into the matchups at this point. I got a couple matchups that I really like for this week, just for the straight week in general. I like Cameron Smith minus 110 over Tony Finau. I've been a pretty big fan of Tony Finau, but he just hasn't been really there with his game for the most part. And there's always like times I was like, oh, the Masters, he's finally going to put it together. And I'm like, he's always going to like. It's just constant disappointment. I thought he would have really had a shot with the Masters. I had a future ticket with him. But I think Cameron Smith, I think he's just going to have the better matchup there. I actually like Will Zalatoris minus 114 versus Corey Connors. I think the deciding factor between these two is the strokes gained around the green play. Corey Connors is not good in that category, and Will Zalatoris is much better than him at that point. And finally, I'm attacking your boy Ricky Fowler. I like Sergio minus 150. Sergio already like for this week in general, and I think anytime you're going to go against Ricky Fowler this week, you're pretty much going to have to, is he going to make the cut or not? Probably not, because he's changed his swing so much within the entire year. And I will pay that vig of minus 150 with Sergio because I think it's high for a reason.
I'd love to say on my show that the juice sometimes is worth the squeeze. In this instance, it would be. I had a horrible bad beat last week. I had Sergio in a head-to-head over Fowler. Sergio shot a 7 under to start the tournament last week, and Ricky shot like a 2 under or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then on Friday, Sergio shoots a 75, 10 shots worse, misses the cut, and loses to Ricky by a shot when Ricky missed the cut also. Boy, was I pissed. I was pissed because I knew I was on the right guy, and Sergio just had a bad Friday and lost by a stroke after a 65. So it was what it was. I love you could have said any name against Ricky Fowler, and I would love that play.
Yeah, sure.
It doesn't matter. Like I told you, I'm playing Billy Horschel and Harris English against Ricky Fowler. Yeah. So I'd encourage anybody watching right now, if you can fade Ricky Fowler, I don't care, outside of the 20 PGA professionals in this tournament, play whoever it is that your book has against Ricky Fowler. That's how bullish I am on Ricky Fowler, not only missing the cut, but shooting a really high score. Chris, you don't come to this course. You don't come to this tournament to fix your game. And he didn't even qualify for this tournament. Let's remember that. He did not qualify to play here. He did not earn his spot to play here. So why would we ever bet on him here? That makes no sense. I love that play. The play I don't like is the Cameron Smith over Tony Finau. I love both guys, but I don't like them against each other. I have Cameron Smith in my book over Patrick Cantlay, and I have Tony Finau over Scotty Scheffler. But I think Tony Finau is going to have a really good week. I really, really do. I think he's got the game to play well here because of his ball flight. I've seen him in person several times. He hits it a mile, but he doesn't hit it super, super high. And I think that's going to be a good combination this week. So I don't like that one. I do like the one with Fowler. And then you had a third. What was your third one?
My third wide, Will Zalatoris minus 114 versus Corey Connors.
I like Will Zalatoris. He proved at the Masters he can handle the pressure. The pressure is not an issue. Corey Connors is such a good iron player, man. He is such a good iron player. But I don't know that this is the type of course that Corey Connors is going to excel at. And I think Will Zalatoris is special. And so I like that play. I like that play.
Yeah, I just think the whole thing with Tony Finau, I thought his chance to break on through was the Masters. I thought he had a shot at actually winning that. But I don't know. I've always backed him a bunch. And at this point, I just don't think he's completely there. I know he has interviews where he's saying he feels he could be a major winner. You know, I've heard that from him. But I just think Cameron Smith.
Why wouldn't you say that? Why wouldn't he say that? You know what I mean? Of course, they all think that. It doesn't mean they have the game that translates into major championship golf. You've got to have everything happen at just the right time, at the right week. Your game has to be tight, and you got to have a little bit of luck too.
All right, well, I got another question over here from Mitch. Phil hits the lefty cut and plays the wind well. Would you bet on him for anything?
Hell to the no. No. Perfect example, Chris. What did Phil Mickelson do 2 weeks ago? He came out the first day, shot lights out.
Mm-hmm.
First round leader, right?
Yep.
And then what did he do the rest of the week? 76, 74, 75, something like that. And just regressed every single day. Right now, I would not bet on Phil Mickelson at all. Not in the top 10, not in a win, nothing. Nothing. Now, the way he does cut it, if the wind comes from the left, that's going to be really, really good for him. I don't think it's going to matter. He doesn't have the game to play well at major championship venues. He just doesn't. He has a great game for the Champions Tour. He has I said this maybe a month ago, that Phil has to really look at himself and say, am I good enough anymore week in and week out to continue to do this? Because I think he'd be great in the booth.
Oh,
Next to Nick, or remember last year at the PGA Championship, he went in the booth for about, I don't know, an hour, and he was phenomenal. So I know he still wants to play. I know he's competitive. Get your fix on the Champions Tour and become the number one guy at CBS Golf. I think he would be incredibly fulfilled if he did that. But it's hard to walk away when you still have the ability to get in all these golf tournaments. Plus, we all know he still wants to win the U.S. Open. That's never going to happen either. So, no, I would not bet on Phil this week.
Yeah, I think it's like what you brought before, not to be too cute with these bets for the most part. You know, he's a guy that's like a heckle, and, you know, he's been good and bad, but a lot more bad than good. First round flashes, that's about it. So I'm with you there. I wouldn't play him anywhere at that point. So what were the matchup plays you were talking about that you were looking at?
So I had several that I found at my book. I had Rory over Rahm. I have Rory over Bryson. I have Spieth over JT. I have Morikawa over Xander. Reed over Cantlay. I'm fading Scheffler with Finau. I'm playing Sam Burns over Max Homa, and then Horschel over Fowler and Harris English over Fowler. So I've got 9 tournament plays that I really, really like this week.
Yeah. What was that Rory line you had for against Bryson?
Minus 140.
Yeah, I would lay that juice. I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about Bryce. I think a lot of people are going to get burned by him this week. And I think and you might be able to cash that ticket in after Friday, honestly.
I completely agree with you. I have people there that have told me, and I said at the top of the show, and I'd rather take what they have seen than what a lot of people will do, because the biggest problem you have, and I still have a tendency to do it, I try not to, is you bet with what you hope will happen. You don't bet with what you really think will happen. And I really think Bryson's not going to play well. So I'm going to bet against him. And a lot of people are hoping that he does his thing because it's exciting and it's fun. And he did it at Bay Hill, and that was exciting when he hit over the water and all that. But that's what they hope will happen, not necessarily what they think will happen. And that can be a dangerous thing. So I'm going to fade Bryson, but I'm going to do it with Rory because it's Rory. And I think Rory, he won here before. He knows how to get around this place. And he just won 2 weeks ago. He is primed and ready for a great week. He may not do it, but he's primed and ready.
No, I agree with you. I think he's going to definitely have a good week. A top 20 that I'm looking at for good value, one of the European players, Shane Lowry, plus 3.5. Previous major winner at the British Open, a links course. He's been in great form this season, had a 21st at the Masters, big event. He's also had a 9th and 12th at the PGA Championship before, so he does get up for these kind of events. And I just like his chances here. He's positive at all in the strokes gained categories, which I feel like is definitely important when you're picking these golfers. You want to pick good golfers, like you said. He's a sneaky good golfer, and I think for 3.5 to 1 on your money, I think Shane Lowry is a good spot here.
And what did he do 2 years ago, Chris?
2 years ago over
2 years ago. No. What did he do? What was his big win 2 years ago?
Oh, he won the British Open.
That's exactly right. He won the British Open. And what is the telltale sign every time at the British Open? What do they always have? Wind. Lots and lots of wind.
Tons of wind.
So he is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. He's a European player. He has won the Open Championship. He knows how to play in the wind. He was dominant the week he won the Open Championship. So I believe he's a really, really good play this week because of his history and what he's been able to do. Love him this week.
Yeah, I just think at that number 2, you could always take a guy with a little bit lower odds, but I think there's some good bang for your buck right there, and I really like that there. There's a couple of top 10 plays that I'm also liking as well. I'm very high on Paul Casey this week. He's 5.5 to 1 for top 10. I don't think he can necessarily win it, but he just fits all the models I've been making with just the strokes gain approach around the green game off the tee. Every model I've been making, he's been falling into that top 10 constantly. Just with the numbers. It's not even I'm trying to put him in there. It just seems like he's been really good on the European tour. He had a win there, and he's just been real solid all year. I really like him. Cameron Smith plus 410 to get in the top 10. We talked about him pretty much all show, so I don't really need to get too much more into him. And this is a little lower odds, but I mean, he's one of the best young players on tour. Victor Hovland plus 225. Not the biggest payouts of the world, but he can run it up any round. And when he gets one of those rounds, he's definitely in contention.
I think Victor Hovland should be in a featured group. He's
100%.
He's a top 10 player in the world right now. That's how good he's hitting the ball. That is kind of a low payout though for a top 10. I would probably play that if it was a top 20. But plus 225 is
a
not
little
high
low,
enough.
but I just feel like he's going to be there.
Yeah, I hear you. The Paul Casey, I did an appearance with Dottie Pepper yesterday, and she loves Paul Casey this week. Absolutely loves, and she'll be following all the groups around for CBS this weekend. So take that for what it's worth. So I like, and of course Cam Smith. So all three of those, I think definitely I would play them as a top 20 though. I hate top 10s. I don't. Again, I don't tell anybody how to bet. It's just not my thing. Yeah. But I hate top 10s because I used to play them a lot. And you get to Sunday and you're sitting there in fourth, and inevitably, because of how a tournament always plays out, a bogey or two, all of a sudden you're in 11th and you're in 12th. You had a good 4.5 or 3.5 days, and then you lose it on the last 4 holes or last 5 holes. I despise it. I absolutely despise it. That's why I don't do them.
No, I understand. I mostly give out these plays anyway because a lot of the bettors that watch my show, they ask for these kind of plays. But you know what?
Of course, I'm not saying anything about you, but
no,
I'm just saying.
And I appreciate your honesty with it anyway because it's good insight that you're giving to these bettors and everything that are watching the show and everything because at the end of the day, we all want to be smart bettors. And I think that's the number one thing. We don't want to bet with our heart. We want to bet with our mind and figure out what works for us and where we can get the most value with for the most part. Speaking of value, what value do you feel like there's going to be for a winner here at this tournament?
To me, the sweet spot is Jordan Spieth. Even though he's plus 1,600, that's at least enough that you would feel that win if you got it. But to me, the money is like the plus 3,000, the plus 5,000. I know Sam Burns is in that category. I could not believe that he wasn't higher than plus 5,000, which is what he was at yesterday. So to me, if I'm going to bet on a winner, it's going to be in that 3,000 to 5,000. This week, I probably won't because I truly believe it's going to be a big name who wins. It's going to be a Spieth. It's going to be a Rory. It's going to be a JT, something like that. So I'm not throwing a flyer this week. I'm just not going to do it. Normally I do. But this week, major champions normally don't normally a average player doesn't win a major championship. Now, Keegan Bradley won this tournament. Jason Duffner won this tournament. This is the one tournament of the 4 that you can see a guy that's not a big name win more often than not. But I don't think at this course, Chris, that's going to happen. So I'm not betting on any winners this week.
So the guys that I'm looking at, I kind of went a little different route than you there. There's one guy that has just been consistently, he's almost burned me a bunch of times, but for all the models that I've made for the most part, once again, betting with your mind, not with your heart. Daniel Berger, 40 to 1. I was able to get him at. He just checks all the boxes. He's a low striking ball hitter. He's a grinder, pretty solid putter, really good off the tee, excellent around the green. I just feel like this could be his tournament to win. And this is honestly my favorite guy to win this tournament.
Yeah, but the problem with Daniel Berger is that in major championships, he doesn't really show up. I mean, he clearly doesn't have one yet. He's great at stacking cash. He's great at head-to-heads. He's great when like Sunday, I knew that he was going to go out and shoot a 64 because nobody was paying attention to him. When nobody is talking about Daniel Berger, that's when he jumps up and gets you a top 5 or he gets you a top 10. You got to remember, what direction does his ball go?
I believe it goes left to right, correct?
Big time. He
Yeah.
does not even know how to hit the ball right to left. That's a problem this week. It's a big time problem. I really think you're going to see Berger struggle because he's going to have to aim so far to the left. And this is if the wind does what they say it's going to do. Okay?
Sure.
That's a caveat. If it lays down, this course can be had. But if the wind, somebody sent me a video today, I think it was Mark, and he was standing right next to the flagpole on 14, and it was whipping so hard. It was like, pow. And I was like, wow, if this is the wind, this is going to be carnage. If it lays down, not so much. But be very careful because Berger only hits it one way.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, it's that big outside in swing.
Mm-hmm.
The ball can't do anything but do that. So I'd be careful with him this week.
Okay. And another guy I was looking at was Patrick Reed. He's in the 35-1 range. He's a guy that's not being talked about. Once again, you talked about, a guy that no one talks about, but doesn't really believe in. He thrives on that, being the villain, being that guy that no one believes in, and he turns it on. And I think his around the green game is solid. And I think 35-1, I definitely think it's worth a flyer here.
His around the green game is not solid, bro. It is phenomenal. He is arguably, with Jordan Spieth, has the best short game in the game. Mm-hmm. And that's why I love him this week. And this is a perfect name for what I was just talking about. In that sweet spot between 2,500 and 5,000, because I think probably on average, if a guy hits 10 or 11 greens in regulation, that's going to be a really good round, maybe 12. So that means at least 6 holes you're going to have to scramble. At least 6 you're going to have to scramble. And also, which direction does Patrick Reed hit the ball?
I believe he hits his right to left, I believe.
You're damn right he does. He hits it right to left, which means he'll be able to hold the ball up in the wind because it's coming left to right. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Yeah. That matters. And I'm just trying to make people at home understand why this makes a difference.
Very good insight.
It makes a big difference. And if you've noticed what he's really been working on the last 2 or 3 months, he went to David Ledbetter, and he's been working on trying to cut the ball because he understands there's going to be a lot of courses, and this could be one of them that you got to be able to hit it both ways because this course, if people don't understand what this course is like, there's a really cool Google Maps flyover, and basically the front 9 goes out and then comes back. Then the back 9 goes out and it comes back. So it doesn't do what a normal golf course does. It's basically like a big oval. Mm-hmm. And so that means when the wind is coming in off the water this way, it can be very demonstrative. So I love Patrick Reed because of his ball flight and his short game.
Yeah, I just think that's a good combination there for the most part. Mm-hmm. I'm actually holding a futures ticket with Victor Hovland, not for this tournament, but for the British Open. I believe, I'm going to say it's about 7 months ago. I took him for every major because I was really high on him. I have an 80-1 ticket on him right now for the British Open that's been marinating for some time. So I think he could do really well here, but I'm kind of hoping he puts up a good performance and then, cashes me in big over there for the British Open. But I think he could have a real good shot of winning this because he's a happy-go-lucky golfer. Doesn't really get phased. He had that one hole where he went back and forth for like a 12 or something crazy, and he just laughed it off and then ripped off like 4 more birdies.
Yeah, that was at the WGC that happened.
Yeah,
and it was an 8 on the final hole, and then he came back the next day, and you didn't even know that it happened.
Yeah,
and he has the game to win a major. Let's remember that he finished top 10 at the U.S. Open right before he turned pro at Pebble Beach. So you're going to give an amateur a top 5 in the U.S. Open at Pebble Beach? He's got all the skills. He's got all the shots. He has the demeanor to forget a big number, forget the 6, forget the 7, and you've got to have that in a major championship because you're going to have the bigger holes. It's just going to happen. So I love the fact that you got him at 81. By the time we get to the British Open, he's probably going to be in that 25 to 35 to 1. That ticket's going to have unbelievable value by July.
Yeah, I just feel like at that kind of like, links course, where he can pretty much hit his irons anywhere. He can hit in the backyard, in the parking lot. It really doesn't matter with him. So I feel like that kind of event like that, I feel like he would be real good, and I think he's going to be good here. So I'm rooting for him, but I'm not rooting for him because I feel like if he wins this major, he's probably not going to pull off 2 majors in one season.
Hey, you never know. Crazier things have happened.
That's definitely true. So if I was going to give you one golfer right now, who is going to win this week? Who is it going to be?
Jordan Spieth.
Jordan Spieth?
Jordan Spieth. 7 top 10s in his last 9 events. His short game he's an absolute magician. It's going to be Spieth, or I would go with Rory as well. In fact, I went with Rory in my one and done league because I'd already used Spieth, I don't know, back in March. So I've got Rory this week. I'm a big believer because sometimes we outthink it. I'm a big believer in form matters, recent form matters, and prove to me, I'll even lose a bet, Chris, betting on somebody one too many times. I'll go back to the well because people are like, oh, I just bet on him last week. Can't do this week. Why not? If he's in form. Yeah. If you bet on Sam Burns the last 2 weeks, you're cashing every ticket. Win ticket, head-to-head tickets, top 5 tickets, top 10 tickets. You're cashing everything. Why wouldn't you go back to him until he proves you wrong? So that's the way I look at it. And sometimes it costs me losses. For the most part, though, I'll win 3 or 4 before that loss comes.
No, it's a good point. You got to forgive and forget. You can't hold on to these golfers and be like, this guy always loses for me. If the numbers work and the matchups work, you just have to go with your gut and the work you put into it. That's how I feel. I mean, when it comes to Sunday, I try to be as analytical as possible, but there is a certain kind of player that does just play well on Sunday. Am I right?
Oh, there is. And that's the thing about majors that you have to remember, and people that are betting at home, that be very careful to bet on really young players, especially if they're playing in their first major or their second major. Will Zalatoris is probably the outlier, but experience matters. Having a really good caddy matters. Having history at courses matters. So Rory is already starting ahead of the game because remember, he won almost 10 years ago, and most of the players that are currently on the PGA Tour weren't on the PGA Tour back in 2012. Right. So he has that advantage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And before you go, I want to do a fun bet. We're going against your thought process for the most part. There's a little thing called a 6-shooter, a round 6-shooter. Have you ever heard of it before?
No.
Okay, no. So pretty much you're given 6 golfers in one round, and you're given pretty much big odd money. So there's 4 of them for first round. So for the first group, who do you think is going to score better in the first round? Rory McIlroy, Victor Hovland, Justin Thomas, Xander Schauffele, Brooks Koepka, or Lee Westwood? Who do you think is going to have the better score after round 1?
Rory.
Okay, so Rory's plus 300. So we're going to book that right there. The next group, Bryson DeChambeau, Hideki Matsuyama, Colin Morikawa, Matt Wallace, Charlie Hoffman, Eric Von Ruin. Who are we going with there?
Wow. Matt Wallace.
Matt Wallace. All right, that's plus 450 right there. So we literally have plus 300 and plus 450. We got 2 more groups. We're going to get real crazy with it. This is going to be a nice little lottery ticket here. So right now we also have John Rahm, Patrick Reed. We got Tommy Fleetwood.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me bring the rest up here. I'm getting cut off by my computer over here. Cameron Smith, Justin Rose, and Gary Woodland. Who are we going with there?
Cam Smith.
Cam Smith? All right.
Yes.
So we got Rory McIlroy, Matt Wallace. So we have a plus 300, a plus 450, and we got a Cameron Smith plus 400. The last group, your boy, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Webb Simpson, Will Zalatoris, Shane Lowry, Sergio Garcia. Who will have the best first round here? I think this is a tough one.
Wow, this is so tough. And I'm not even deciding between DJ and Spieth. I'm deciding between Sergio and Spieth. I think Jordan comes out ready to play. I think he's laser. I'm going to go Jordan.
Okay, Jordan's the top.
I think he's going to win.
All right, so he's plus 275. So just to recap what the madness we've been going on here, we have Rory plus 3-1. We have Matt Wallace 4.5-1, Cameron Smith 4-1, and Jordan Spieth plus 275. That pays out a whopping let's see, 41,150. If you put $10 on it, you make a smooth $4,125
for a $10 bet if those hit. So
yeah.
Those five or four?
Four bets.
Four bets. Jordan, Rory, Cam, and Matt Wallace.
Yep. 10 will win you over 4K. I'm going to lock it in.
Lock it in, baby. Lock it in. I love it. Okay. You never know.
Absolutely. I love it. It's going to be a great sweat. It's going to be a monster sweat, even more of a sweat than the leader after first round. So
That's right. That's fun.
Absolutely.
That was fun. Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. See if we get something for the people, absolutely. See if we can get a big ticket, a big lottery ticket. But I wanted to thank you again, Coach. It was so much fun having you on. You have great insight inside the ropes, of course, and everything else with sports betting. I learned some stuff here today as well. So I'm really happy about that. And I know the viewers did as well. You can find Jonathan Coachman at The Coach Rules on Twitter, CBS Early Edge with all sports betting. He's got great handicappers there, including his picks as well. The First Cut podcast I absolutely love with Rick Gaiman from Rick Run Good, a fantastic mind. There's just great people on that show with the coach right there. Tuesday nights is a must watch. And finally, PGA Tour Live. I'm a golf fanatic. I love watching golf anytime I can, even if it's Snedeker all the time, I'll take it. It doesn't even matter. But either way, Coach is all over everything that's involved sports betting, especially golf. Golf is the hottest sport, in my opinion, of all sports betting. You get so many ways of betting it, and I think people are just starting to realize that, and it's so much fun. And this whole segment was fun, Coach, and I wanted to thank you again for being on.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and I encourage everybody at home to practice money management. Remember to have fun. This is supposed to be fun. Watch all these different shows. Take the education that you get and then apply it to the players, because every sports book is different. It has different matchups. It has different bets. But remember, at the end of the day, yes, you want to make money, but you want to have fun. That's it, because you have more fun. Everybody's going to win, and Chris, everybody's going to lose.
Sure.
So you got to have fun with it. So thanks for having me on, and I wish everybody the best of luck this week, and let's enjoy the PGA Championship.
Absolutely. It's going to be a lot of fun no matter what happens, and thanks again.
My pleasure.